I've been a fan of CRPGs or RPGs for a long time, really most of my life. Some of my best experiences in games, single player games, have always been of the RPG variety. Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, Dragon Age, those games left a very strong impression on me. But there's a game coming out soon, in 2023, that may be the best RPG in a generation. And that's what I want to talk to you today about, Baldur's Gate 3 and why we should all be excited about it. If you enjoy tabletop, if you enjoy CRPGs, if you enjoy RPGs, this game could be one of the best we've had in a very long time. And it's also one that I strongly believe has been worth the wait, as it has been in early access since 2020. To me, there are three pillars that make this game what it is, and I want to go into each of those pillars individually and then end with a little bit of a nod to D&D. So stick with me as we go into why I am so freaking excited about this damn game. It's not just because Larian Studios made another fantastic game, Divinity Original Sin. I think this game is actually an improvement on that formula. So let's dive in. The first pillar that I want to talk about is combat, and specifically the strategic combat that both rewards and punishes you for decisions you make. Positioning is important. The battlefield is important. Your skills you use and when you use them matter. But it's not too much. In Divinity Original Sin 2, there was a similar need to pay attention, but it was a bit much in some ways. Let me explain. The combat felt hamstrung by a reliance on battlefield manipulation and a dual physical and magical armor system. Doing so created interesting strategic decisions, but they could often overshadow story-based decision making in the RPG. It was more about how to build your party to take advantage of one of the two armor types, but not the other one, or what characters could benefit from different battlefield manipulations. While this was all fun, it left combat, at least to me, feeling really kind of two-tone. The armor type you attacked and the AoEs you could lay down felt like the most important parts of the game. In Baldur's Gate 3, it seems like Larian has improved on that formula by making each class feel important, but also workable with each other. No longer fearing the armor type, but thinking more along the lines of D&D to see what classes complement each other best. And with a wide range of classes to pick from, there's a lot to choose, and we're still not done. Baldur's Gate 3 hasn't fully released yet, but they've gradually been adding classes direct from Dungeons & Dragons, with some manipulations here and there like the Ranger. Baldur's Gate 3 has found a formula that results in a good mixture of battlefield importance, with range, terrain, and obstacles all mattering, while also adding in the unpredictability of RNG, the dice rolls, and things like that. The importance of strategic decisions within the battle and specific class roles. But beyond that, you can often avoid combat altogether, which brings us to our next point. My second pillar is that there are non-linear pathways in the game. One of the elements of Baldur's Gate 3 that it does best is its consequences. Every conversation, every interaction feels like it's meaningful. You could start combat unnecessarily by being a dick, or you could avoid it completely by intimidating or charming. You could gain a companion's trust or turn them against you. In fact, I remember a very important section with a companion of mine that may have prematurely ended my game. I won't go into any more detail with that, but if you have played Act 1, you may know what I'm talking about. But it goes beyond that, beyond dialogue choices. Your class matters, the race you chose matters, your stat allotment matters, even your party makeup matters, as you get bonuses, penalties, and even entirely new options based on all those factors. This, perhaps above all, is where the game feels like a love letter to Dungeons & Dragons, with a bit of a hands-off DM that lets you decide. Will you choose violence or seek other solutions? How will you approach each problem? What choices will you make to alter the course of your playthrough? Baldur's Gate 3 uses a heavily modified version of Dungeons & Dragons 5e rule set, and players of the tabletop game will find a lot of familiarity with the game. But one thing to consider as you go into the game is, again, everything you do could have a consequence, and that's part of what makes it a really great game. Now, the final pillar is going to be story. Baldur's Gate 3 engages you in a high-stakes story from the very beginning with an abduction by mind flayers and the insertion of a mind flayer tadpole into the protagonist's brain. Anything further than that risks spoilers, but I can talk in general terms about how the story hooks you early on and really doesn't let up. Characters, the ones that you have as your companions and the ones that you just come into contact with, they're all engaging. Everyone feels worth talking to because they're fully fleshed out, bringing the world to life. You never know what conversations could lead to a new quest or a new engaging story content, or what you could discover about the world that you are inhabiting by talking to that person. Baldur's Gate 3 is the convergence of lore and personal story into a beautiful tapestry of world building, and it's already based off an intricate and well-designed world from Dungeons and Dragons. Really, the story is there for you. It is there for you to unravel and discover, and each playthrough, and yes, you will probably do multiple playthroughs, will have different things that you can figure out. There is a lot more here than just the main story, and some things you may completely miss based off of conversations that you had or didn't have. So those are the three pillars, but I didn't want to end quite there. I want to talk about an article by Game Rant. Now in this article, it is talking about 5 ways that Baldur's Gate 3 is similar to D&D and 5 ways it is different. I won't go over each of those here, but I'll link the article down below. Instead, I just wanted to highlight one of the inclusions that I thought was great and one of the exclusions that I thought was great. For my favorite inclusion, it has to be character creation. As Game Rant describes it, character creation in Baldur's Gate 3 is a near perfect representation of filling out a character sheet in the tabletop version of Dungeons & Dragons. Players get to choose their starting race, class, subclass, when applicable, background, and proficiencies. I have to agree with Game Rant here, and it's one of the most fun parts of the early game, and one I spent far too much time on, reading and learning all about my characters, the stats, backgrounds, and finding what fit me best. There are a wealth of options to pick from, and you can spend hours customizing your character to exactly what you want. It's worth putting in time too, because the options you choose, besides appearance, all may have a direct impact on your gameplay. But what about something that's changed, something that is not the same as in D&D? For me, that'd be alignments. Alignments have always felt like a wall in Dungeons & Dragons to me, a way to encourage roleplay through a strict adherence to a moral code decided upon at the start of character creation. In Baldur's Gate 3, there are no alignment choices. Each character has their own motivations, their own reasoning for doing what they do, and a backstory that informs those reasons. I prefer this morally gray approach to characterization, much more than the hard and fast rules of alignment, which have you asking what would your alignment have you do rather than what would your character do. I'm also the guy in every D&D game that would just sit happy in a neutral alignment because it always gave me more opportunity to develop my character background.
That's good news. And what about Saruman? Have you come to a decision about him?
Now don't be hasty, Master Myriad.
Perhaps that is why I've always had a bit of an issue with the alignment system. It feels like it boxes you into a decision making that takes you away from the actual organic development of your character. And this is why, to me, I think Baldur's Gate 3 could be the best RPG we get in a generation. I have played through the entirety of Act 1 and fully enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to the full release sometime in 2023, an announcement we should be getting very soon. And really, I can't think of many games that will challenge Baldur's Gate 3 for the throne of best RPG in the coming years, with perhaps 1 or 2 exceptions that might be a little far off.
Darkspawn. Even the Dreadwolf. This is your story.
My name is Redbeard Flynn. I talk about MMORPGs and RPGs on this channel, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts down below. This is my very first video on an RPG on this channel, so I'm a little nervous about, you know, this not being what you all want to see. So let me know down below, did I mess up or did you actually enjoy this? Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.